welcome to our next podcast. I'm here today with Emma and Harriet again, and we're going to be talking all things BAMAN.
Thanks for joining us again, guys.
The big topic of NHS to aesthetics.
Yes.
How did we do it? If we did it.
Yeah. Big transitions.
I know, we've got a lot of different dynamics within just us three, haven't we, to discuss?
Yeah. Imagine how many others.
So I think a lot of questions that nurses wanting to get into medical aesthetics have is what made you leave the NHS? Like, what was your reasoning?
The big question.
Why would you leave something, such a big organisation, to go and work on your own? And I think what mine was, I was sister in A&E. I'd been there 10 years, and I kind of felt as if I'd outgrown it a little bit. And I kind of thought, actually, do you know what? I want to challenge myself again. I was late 20s and I thought, I want something new, exciting.
How old?
I know, you never think it. And I thought, I would like to have a new challenge. And put myself out there a little bit. And I'd always had kind of like a thing when I was younger where I wanted to have a business and be a business owner, and also wanted to use my nursing as part of that. Of course, I love caring for patients. I love being with people. So naturally, it felt right to go into aesthetic medicine, and I've loved it, absolutely loved it, never looked back. I love the work-life balance about it. I love the colleagues that I meet, and the support you get from that, and the friendships I've made. Leaving was the right decision for me, without a doubt. Do I miss it? Yes, of course. I loved being in the NHS, and I love what that represented back then.
Do you just miss what you think was the shift, if you see what I mean?
I mean, I do miss a bit of the adrenaline and a bit of the
you definitely don't want
the blues and twos
in private practice, do you?
No, but I do. I love the calmness that being in aesthetics brings me, and I love the autonomy that I have within it. I love that I can manage my own patient caseloads. Obviously, I've gone on to become a prescriber, which the BAMAN obviously helped me go down that avenue and achieve. I just think there's a lot to be said for going into medical aesthetics. A lot of people think, oh, you won't have the same like patient satisfaction, like reward, but I find that I do. I really do.
I agree. I mean, it took me a while to transition, if I'm honest. I debated it for probably a couple of years before I actually took the plunge. And I'd been in the NHS doing what I did for about 16, 17 years when I decided that I already had my aesthetic clinic that I was doing a couple of days a week and some of the evenings, and I just found that the demand was growing. So it was really about thinking about whether I wanted to remain in the NHS or whether I wanted to grow my own business. And there is something about having your own business.
Oh, it feels brilliant, doesn't it?
Women in business.
Yeah, you're so proud of it as well, aren't you?
It's an achievement.
It is. It is a real achievement. And I loved, it's a different kind of satisfaction, but there is definitely satisfaction about treating a patient, making them feel good about themselves. That empowerment when someone walks out and they feel so much better. It's it's a real honour.
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased that I made that transition. It was difficult, and I do sometimes miss my role that I had in the NHS, but I feel I had got to the level within the NHS that I wanted to be. So I'd got to the top, and I was spending a lot of my time actually training junior doctors, and I do love that teaching side of things and the assessing side of things, and as part of my aesthetics role I've also brought that in. So.
Well, that's where it's so great, because obviously now we've got the education committee, obviously you've just done your assessors course, and that's all been supported by BAMAN, hasn't it? So part of your role within the NHS is now you're able to utilise that into medical aesthetics.
More than you think sometimes.
I think
do you not ever think, Harriet, because you're still in the NHS, do you not ever consider moving full time?
Yes and no.
Depends what day it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Depends what shift I'm on. I think I had a sabbatical, so I did full-time aesthetics for just over a year. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If I'm being honest, did I miss the other role? Absolutely, I did. But I think there's a lot to be said for work-life balance. And you definitely get a better work-life balance doing medical aesthetics. I think I'm not quite ready to give up my NHS skills yet.
Yeah.
And I think it's the technical skills I worry about,
Yeah.
chest strains and, pacing and running a resus. They're very different skills that I wouldn't see in medical aesthetics.
Harriet, what is it you do in the NHS?
So my role is where I work, we call it an advanced clinical practitioner, but it's essentially an advanced nurse practitioner. It's just because we have multiple people from different backgrounds, like paramedic medicine and things. And I work in emergency medicine.
Wow.
So I do that part-time and then run a clinic part-time.
So that's actually quite a useful background for
Yeah,
being in
it's completely
aesthetics.
polar opposite job, but there is so much that overlaps within it. And interestingly, because of the industry that we work in, we often see things that come through the door that unfortunately people haven't managed to look after that well, or managed to sort of highlight a problem early on that we then manage within our emergency medicine.
Wow.
So yeah, it's an interesting one, and I had a sabbatical last year, but I've kind of gone back to doing 2 days a week.
Do you know what though? I think that's so interesting is even if you do make that leap and you go solely into aesthetics and you do leave the NHS, that door is always open. If you're still revalidating and you're still keeping up with all your CPD points and stuff, and you're registering every year with the NHS, with NMC, you're going to still be able to go back to the NHS if you want to. You're not closing that door.
I think it depends on your skill, as in it depends what your day-to-day role is. I think I'm sure it's something like 14 or 15 months I had off. I definitely went back and had, I was rusty at certain things.
Yeah.
But it's like riding a bike. You do a few shifts and you do get into it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't stop anyone from leaving the NHS to go into private full-time medical aesthetics. I think it just depends what you enjoy, and I like literally the opposite ends of the spectrum.
But of course you've got, and also we mentioned earlier, and like with the NHS, you've got your pension to think about. But what's good is with with BAMAN, we have an accountant who will talk about pensions and stuff, and we have speakers come in to talk about things like that. So there are little things that you'd perhaps think, I could never leave because I've got X, Y, and Z.
I can imagine a lot of members probably feel frightened as well to take that leap.
It is a big leap.
It is, because you're coming from a place of security to the unknown.
Are you coming from enjoyment? I think a lot of people are worried to leave.
Yeah.
My experience is that I have done that 15 months without and gone back. It definitely wasn't. I didn't go back because I was worried about finances. I didn't go back because I was worried that it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I just felt that I liked to do
You
both
enjoyed it,
for now.
which is nice.
I don't think it will be forever. And if I was to tailor off one, it would definitely be my NHS over my medical aesthetics.
My transition was a little bit different because I actually did quit my sister's role in A&E. I kept on as a bank nurse, so I was able to do the odd shift and stuff. But as you can imagine, once you start your aesthetics practice and it grows, and I was really lucky. I started it and it just rolled, and I got busy very quickly with it. And I think what I say to nurses is, I know it's daunting, but if you take that leap, you will make it work, because you have to.
And also you can be employed. We've all got our own businesses, but there are a lot of nurses within BAMAN that work for companies, bigger companies. So you don't have to take such a drastic jump.
Well, even on our
one to another.
even on our Facebook group, we've got a BAMAN Facebook group, and I know I think recently, within the last couple of weeks, a nurse has said, look, I've got a big established practice. I'm looking for another nurse to join within BAMAN. Because we all know each other, we've all got certain standards that we work to, and what a great way to get a job through an organisation like this. So that was really nice to see, actually, that she'd come forward and asked for one of the members to join her team. And you'll find a lot of our members are actually both in the NHS and doing aesthetics. I solely do just aesthetics and have done for 7 years. But hats off to the people that are still doing the NHS, because with your rotas and stuff and with demand. And
it's a really interesting one, because when I went onto my sabbatical, the premise was I was struggling to really keep up 2 sides of my brain doing 2 different jobs.
Of course.
But coming away, I was worried about finances. You have a safety net of a pension and a monthly income. with medical aesthetics, we know this because of COVID. Things can be shut down very quick. So you kind of need to have a backup plan in that sense.
Yeah.
But actually coming away and doing sabbatical, it was absolutely fine. I didn't need to worry about finances, because the more you're open and available.
It took me a long time actually to make that plunge from being part-time in the NHS, part-time aesthetics, to being solely aesthetics now. It was a big jump. And I was worried at the time, like you say, about the financial aspects of that. But the more I've become available in my private practice, the busier that I've become.
And I definitely think you find that. The diary is open, people will book. But there was just something I missed.
Yeah, I must admit, sometimes I do miss my NHS role. I do.
Yeah. Well, you're cardiology, aren't you? Your background.
So
surgical.
I'm surgical.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm an advanced nurse practitioner and surgical care practitioner in theatre. So I used to harvest the conduits for open heart surgery. So I used to take
no
the vein.
Pressure.
So I used to take the radial artery out of the arm or the saphenous vein out of the leg.
Very steady hand, Claire.
Yeah.
Great for aesthetics.
Good to know.
Yeah. Good steady hand.
So I used to do that as well as assist our resident plastic surgeon as well.
Yeah.
So that's, it's that tissue handling and working with plastics that gave me that love for aesthetics.
So when you have a patient and you're not sure, say they come to you and we've all had them patients, they lean forward, they like to use 3 fingers on their face, lift their face forward and say, can we do this today?
Yeah.
Do you find that you're quite confident in saying, actually, no, that needs a surgical intervention?
Absolutely.
Or actually we can do this with non-surgical
I mean,
options?
if they're doing that, there's nothing going to achieve
Yeah,
that apart
absolutely.
from having a facelift. So I do feel quite confident in that I could, explain the rationales for why I would be saying, if this is what you're looking for, this is not the treatment here today with me, and having that referral basis to send patients onto.
I think I've grown into that. I think I started aesthetics 2017. Yeah.
Comes with experience, doesn't it?
I think it does.
But I think in the early days, even I, obviously in our groups and stuff, you would ask other people's opinions and say, look,
and the industry's changed.
Yeah, this is my plan. This is my treatment plan. What does everyone else think? Have I missed anything? Is there more that I could do for this patient? Do you think this is the best way to treat certain things? So, and I think, having the BAMAN, you've got so many people to ask and so many people to say, can anyone offer anything better for this patient? Because I think this is right, but I want what's
absolutely.
better for them.
Like laser for me is mind blowing.
Yeah.
I just can't.
We've got some amazing nurses.
Absolutely. So I would just say, this is the issue.
So well.
What do we think?
Yeah.
We don't really share photos and things, but you can, in context of description through a message, say this is the issue.
Yeah.
This is how the issue presented. What would you guys recommend?
Yeah.
Because you kind of want to do right by them. You don't want people spending money if that's not the treatment that's going to give them the best results.
Well, we follow a medical model, don't we?
Yeah.
And that's quite standard throughout everyone's practice, that we've obviously, when we've discussed this at meetings and stuff and at conferences, we're all very much to a certain standard, and obviously we want what's best for our patients, which we've had and demonstrated for years and years in the NHS as well.
You know what's really interesting? Have you ever had a patient say to you, but do you ever miss nursing?
Oh yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm still a nurse, I'm still a prescriber, and I still have my NMC. And
it's a different skill. It's the same. It's the same fundamentals. We run by the same code of conduct. We have our same standards, which is part of BAMAN, which is obviously reassuring for some. But you are still a nurse, whether you are working in one role to another.
Absolutely. And we're still regulated, and we still have to behave as registered nurses in everything that we carry out. But I find that quite funny, when people do say,
I'll often question them. I'll be like, oh, what do you mean? Yeah. What am I now then?
I also get quite a lot of patients though that are like, oh, I come to you because you're a nurse. Yeah. And they do recognise that I'm a nurse. And do you know what? It's from, obviously with social media and stuff now, I like to, if I've gone to a BAMAN event, I like to put it on my social media, and they're like, oh yeah, I saw you went to your nurse's organisation and stuff. And they see that and they feel reassured. They feel safe. They feel safe with you. So that's just another reason why you should join, because people recognize that, and they see that and people always say, oh, you're keeping up to date. I always see you at events. I always see you at nursing events and conferences, and I know you're keeping up to date and on top of things.
I mean, it's such a large topic, the move for a lot of registered nurses from the NHS to private practice, whether that's medical aesthetics or anything else. I think in particular for us, we've all experienced it to some different degree. So I think really, if you're listening and you're not sure, we're always available to talk to. You can reach out to your regional leaders, you can reach out to head office, and they can put you in contact with us if that is a discussion that you're looking for.
Yeah, even if you're not a member, we're always willing to talk to people, aren't we? We're so inclusive of all nurses.